President Obama's $3.7 trillion budget blueprint rolled off the presses this morning. The White House says its plan will cut deficits by $1.1 trillion over the next 10 years. Two-thirds of that comes from spending cuts. The rest will come from tax increases. The plan will cut back on or eliminate more than 200 federal programs next year, while increasing spending in research, transportation, and education.
When I was sworn in as president, I pledged to cut the deficit in half by the end of my first term. The budget I'm proposing today meets that pledge and puts us on a path to pay for what we spend by the middle of the decade.
Obama's plan relies heavily on new taxes and would trim domestic spending by hundreds of billions of dollars over the next decade. But many Republicans are already complaining the cuts aren't deep enough. The budget plan poses challenges for Democrats as well. As voters clamor for less spending, Obama's plan proposes cuts which, according to lawmakers, many of his colleagues in Congress will find painful.
President Barack Obama is putting a cap on Pell Grants. This will affect students from low-income families across the country. Here's Idia Eisen with the report.
President Obama's new budget will cut $100 billion from Pell Grants and other higher education programs over the next decade. Jean Logan, the Associate Director at AU Central, had this to say.
So an $875 difference in the amount of Pell Grant they receive may not seem like a lot of money, but that could be books or other personal expenses that they are going to lose the funds for that American University may not necessarily be able to make up in other types of funding.
Not everyone agrees with this proposal because it can keep students from qualifying for 2 grants in the same year. For many students, this cut will mean no summer classes and a longer wait before graduation. Only 10% of students at American University receive Pell Grants, and that's very different from other state schools that receive much more.
Policymakers will say that more money should be given to Pell Grants, or more Pell Grants should be distributed, and personally, I think that's always a good thing.
According to Obama, the savings from the grant will help the deficit. Eligible students will get a maximum of $5,500 a year. This is Idia Asian for District Wire News.
American University ranks number 4 for the Peace Corps, top medium colleges with the most undergraduate volunteers. AU is tied with Cornell for 4th, with a grand total of 55 active alumni undergraduate volunteers. Since the beginning of the Peace Corps, over 800 AU alumni have served.
Coming up after the break, Breezy Run will take you along to maybe the skimpiest race in DC. Stay with us.